on the 5th of March, 2020. So it's Thursday morning. Right now, that would mean it is 1:10 in the afternoon, Washington, D.C. time. So let's get started. A lot of interesting things going on today. Unfortunately, there was a huge tornado event in Tennessee. And in fact, I just called my brother who's up there, and a lot of devastation. And it looks like at least 24 people killed and dozens are missing. Really wish you the best up there. And I know that who's going to come and help the most. It's going to be local groups. It's going to be like local church groups and that sort of thing are going to do the most help. That's what always happens in all the tragedies is the local groups do most of the help. It looks like a really serious tragedy. I've looked at a lot of the devastation on the videos on television. My brother sent me some photos and that sort of thing up in Tennessee. I hope for the best. It looks, pretty bad. Let's get started with the virus issues. Just got some information, literally just came in just as I was about to go live. Hey, Chris Perryman and Doug Kirkland. Fear mongering is failing MSM. Doug says, let's see. Jennifer Hack, hello from Canberra down in Australia, and John from Talbot, Tennessee. I hope everything's going well in Talbot. I don't know exactly where that is. My brother told me that it looked like the tornado kind of followed down 40 and headed sort of off of 40. Oh, I got the air conditioner on. I'm sorry. Get rid of that background noise. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I hope Kethia Holland is saying it's really bad here, Michael. Devastating. I wish I could take calls right now. I'm set up to do that, but haven't done it yet, so I don't want to give it a shot right now. But by this time tomorrow, I should be able to start taking calls. Let me see. Bob Linderman is saying they had. Oh, actually, let me click these comments. Hello, Mark. Let's see what Bob's saying here. They had so many volunteers today around Nashville. They had to turn people away. That's Tennessee people, man. It's the volunteer state. I mean, Tennessee people are very good people. I've been to Tennessee so many times. My brother lives there and has since many, many years. And actually, he sells insurance, so he's obviously going to see a lot of what's happened. And I called him specifically to see how he's doing and how the family's doing, and secondly to ask about insurance actually, because he will know a lot about the damage, because obviously the insurance companies need to know, and there'll be billions of dollars in damage. That much is clear. And these things, as I was mentioning the night before, the virus and all that and other economic issues are not, they will, there's not like the tornadoes and the hurricanes and the earthquakes are going to give us a break. They're going to keep coming despite the other issues we've got going. So the communities have to obviously come out and help. And I know I know Tennessee people are outstanding. I saw your National Guard, by the way, in Iraq. I was out with them, 278th Tennessee National Guard. I'm sure they're out right now. They were outstanding soldiers in Iraq in the war, and I'm sure that if the Tennessee National Guard has to get called out, have they been called out? I would have high confidence in them if they were called out. I don't know who the commander is now. I knew the commander before. I don't know if he's still the commander, but he was a really solid commander. But let's see if the Tennessee National Guard comes out, just give them all the support that they need to support you, because obviously it's a mutual thing. Everybody has to facilitate everybody as much as they can. Dave Bowie saying nighttime tornadoes are rare, but the scariest. Yeah, we've had them before too. Nighttime tornadoes are just loud. And my brother said he and his wife were watching television and it got interrupted. And some show called The Bachelorette or something, and that upset a lot of people that particular, I guess, some famous show in America got interrupted. And then he said apparently there was a warning, and hurricane warning or tornado warning. When we say warning in the United States, it means something very specific. If we say watch, it means it's the conditions are right for something, right? The conditions are right for a tornado is like a tornado watch, right? But when you hear beep, 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 and all that, and it's a warning, it means there is really actually a tornado and it's really actually hitting somewhere right now. So he said a tornado warning came, I believe is what he told me. And then I believe it was lifted. You would have to, for the people that were there, you'll know better. So please correct me if this is false. And then another warning came, and tornadoes just ripped. And tornadoes aren't just like a snap of lightning. They rip and rip and rip, and then they can go for an hour. They can go for even hours. I mean, they just rip right down the road. And so I really feel bad for you up in Tennessee. Uh, Trisha saying hi from Moravian Falls. That's in North Carolina. That's way out of the way there. Hello from BC, British Columbia, and Iowa. Let's see. But I'm sure that the volunteers in Tennessee are just everywhere, crawling all over the place. And a lot of people in Tennessee are really can do it sort of people. They're like, we'll take care of this. We ain't waiting for the government. I remember when I lived up in North Carolina, up in the mountains. I lived in a place called Andrews, North Carolina. Anytime there was like a bad storm or something like that, nobody waited for the government to come. Everybody just showed up with their chainsaws and cleared everything out. By the time the government could even get to their trucks, everybody had already cleared everything out, because they just didn't wait for the government to do anything. They just did it themselves. Hello, Uta in Deutschland. Um, Donna is talking about the media deadly coronavirus. CDC estimates that from October 1st, 2019 to 22nd February, there have been 18 to 46,000 flu deaths, but the media doesn't refer to it as deadly flu. Well, that's different, Donna Marino. Why is it different when there's that many deaths every year and sometimes more deaths? And this year has been a bad flu season, actually, in particular, because this is, we know that it's going to happen every year, and we know that it's limited to a certain point. It never gets out of control and kills like 8 million people and collapses economies and that sort of thing. So it is quite different. It's very deadly, of course. That's why every year we hear like so many health experts saying, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, do all the hand washing, all the things that we need to do. And, they're always telling us to wash our hands and get your flu shots. It's obviously extremely deadly, but it's not earth-shatteringly change the country deadly. But this novel coronavirus, I'll call it the China plague or the Wuhan virus, is actually earth-shattering. This has just collapsed the Chinese economy, and it will affect you. It will affect you for sure. The chances of this affecting you are approximately 100%. And if it hasn't affected you yet, it will be soon. In one way or another, directly or indirectly, you will definitely be affected by this plague from China. Hello in Santa Cruz. Let's get going. Hello, Joshua in DC. Let's read something. I'll read it that just came in just a couple of minutes before I went live. And I want to say one more time, I'm seeing more information about Tennessee. I'm telling you, the people that will be able to do the most help are going to be like local church groups and that sort of thing. I see it over and over and over. I'm not a missionary. I don't even go to church, but I know who's always there. Every time I see a disaster, it's like all the local church groups, and they're a lot more, they make proper use out of every grain of rice. It's not sitting out wasting away somewhere in a harbor or on the side of a road. They're actually making sure everything gets to go, I'm just going to guess it, like for every $10 you give to one of them, actually 9 of it hits target, whereas for the, government, it's like for every $10 you hit to them, like a dime gets to the target, Drink a sip of water. I'm not drinking coffee because I want to get to sleep early tonight. I have to wake up early for something. Let me read this that just came in just as I was going live. This is about the virus. Scientists in China studying the outbreak of disease caused by COVID-19, I'll call it China plague, say they have found that two main strains of the virus are circulating in humans and causing infections, according to Media Wednesday. Let me add something there. I was reading something about an hour ago. May even be a third strain. Nobody knows, but how many strains are? But the different strains are almost like different diseases, right? I mean, it can like one can be super deadly and super infectious, and another a lot less of both, or less of one and more of the other. So these things. That's why it's so hard to get accurate numbers, because we're talking really multiple different diseases almost. It's just under the same umbrella. Mutations. The researchers from Peking University's School of Life Sciences and the Institute Pasteur in Shanghai, under the Chinese Academy of Sciences, cautioned that their study looked only at limited range of data and said follow-up studies of larger data sets were needed to better understand the virus's evolution. The preliminary study found that a more aggressive strain of the new coronavirus associated with the outbreak in Wuhan accounted for about 70% of the analyzed cases, while 30% were linked to a less aggressive type. So two different strains here. The prevalence of the more aggressive virus type decreased after early January 2020, they said. Experts not directly involved in the study said its findings were interesting, but cautioned against drawing firm conclusions from such preliminary research. Additionally, the World Health Organization, yeah, those guys, they're part of the problem, who said on Tuesday globally about 3.4% of reported COVID-19 cases have died. By comparison, seasonal flu generally kills far fewer than 1% of those infected, they stated. Like, yeah, far, far fewer. Prior estimates, including a study of more than 1,100 cases in China, had put the death rate at 1.4% of cases. Health experts have also suggested that death rate may be lower than current estimates because they do not take into account the number of milder cases of COVID-19, China plague, that do not get reported. All right, well, that's interesting. Now, I literally was reading that for the first time when I just read it to you, so I haven't had time to assimilate it. But I will say something that I did read earlier, and that was the Scottish health minister says that up to 80% of the population could be infected, which is what some other scientists are saying. I don't know if she is regurgitating what they're saying, which she probably is, or what. And up to 4% require hospitalization. So if she's correct on that, think about what's the population in Scotland? I don't remember. 7 million? I don't know. 4 million? I don't remember. Let's see. What's the population in the United States? Let's say 330 million. So if 80% actually get infected in the United States, what's that? Let's see. So that would be 24 plus 24, about 264 million. And 4% get hospitalized. That would be 10 or 11%, right? Is my math right? I'm tired. Anyway, so that would mean if my math is right and her math is right, if 80% of Americans were to get infected and we have 330 million people, that would be 24 plus 24, about 264 million would be infected. And then 4% of that, yeah, 10 or 11 million people, right? Not all at once, but if that, I think my numbers are right on that. I'm pretty good at head math. Anyway, but well, that would be overwhelm our system. I don't even need to look under the sheets to see that would overwhelm our system, or probably any system on Earth. That's just a huge amount. And so, interestingly, by the way, I did an interview with Jordan Harbinger on the Jordan Harbinger show. It's a great Jordan Harbinger show is a great show. It's just outstanding. And he invited me on, so I was honored, and I did it. And we did it in January. He aired it in a couple weeks later, I think, in February. I've posted it a couple times. But looking at the transcripts, I was saying in late January when we did the interview that how serious this was. And you can see the transcript on the Jordan Harbinger show. Look up my name and Jordan Harbinger, and look at the transcript and look at it. I mean, it was published in, I don't know, maybe mid-February, but our interview took place in January. And you can see that I was right on target. I was like, this is what's happening to China. This is, I was talking about we haven't shut off travel yet and how important that was. And so anyway, that was back in January. There's still people that haven't taken this seriously yet. Normally when people don't, like, here, I'm in Thailand right now, right? I'm in Chiang Mai, Thailand. This is the most dangerous country in the world to ride motorbikes, right? Literally the most dangerous. Look at motorbike danger, most dangerous country in the world. It'll be Thailand, right? And after that, it's somewhere like Libya or something. I don't remember. But anyway, it's super dangerous. I've seen a lot of accidents here with my own eyes, not just ambulances going. There's so many that if you're here for a while, you'll actually see quite a few. And I warn everybody that comes over here, I'm like, stay off the motorbikes. If you're going to wear them, at least wear a helmet. Don't go get yourself a bottle of whiskey and no helmet and wear sandals and ride a motorbike. So many messages I get, oh, my son just broke his leg or my friend just got killed. Quite a few of those over the years, literally killed. It's so common. And I would like to say I feel sorry for you, but I warned you, right? And it's the same with this virus. Unfortunately, with this virus, the people that keep not taking it seriously, I mean, if you go rent a motorbike and you got a bottle of whiskey and you get killed, tough luck. I mean, you were warned and you know better. You're an adult, or maybe you're not an adult. But with this virus, unfortunately, it's tough luck for all of us when people don't take it seriously because they spread it to us. Likewise with our politicians now, Republicans and Democrats, and not just Americans, but you can see like the Dutch and some others are doing just as badly. I mean, people like Biden and Trump can end up being super spreaders. The people that are out there just meeting in big public places with everybody, they can literally be super spreaders. A significant part, let's say, of the Iranian government apparently at this point has been infected. So, I mean, the actual like parliament members, I think about 1 out of 10 or something like that. It's quite a few. And so if it's that many that are already exhibiting enough symptoms to be recognized, it makes one wonder how many are actually. Now, I've read that the scientists are saying that the attack rate is about 80%, which means like the virus can hit up or can be up to 80%. In other words, up to 80% of the people who come in some sort of contact with it may get it. Of course, some lower percentage will then require hospitalization, and some lower percentage then will then die. But interestingly, there's a lot of things that we can do to mitigate. Wash hands. China, a lot of the people in China are shaving beards and shaving their heads, including the women, female doctors and male doctors shaving all the hair off there, and they're just like going like me. I got a pretty head. People that are afraid of their heads, showing how they got knots on their heads and stuff, just wear a hat or whatever and wash the hat. But but it really, the hair and all that becomes a reservoir. Also, it makes it difficult to wear the mask, of course. And so think about, getting a nice haircut like Bruce Willis and I do, and so many of our great military people. And if you got a pretty head like mine, you want to show it off. So, all right, Indians. Why is it that Indians just think that they're immune to so much stuff? Well, I got news for you. Unless you got some genetic, Teflon coating over your skin or something, India is not immune to it. But Indians do keep saying that, interestingly. But look how many also sorts of people there are in India. It's not like Indians are one sort of people. It's like literally a couple thousand languages and dialects and people that look amazingly different from each other within India. In the United States, our health departments have an amazing amount of power. I mean, like superpowers, like to the point where, a health department can walk into the biggest hotel in New York or California and they can go, you're in violation of X, snap, close the doors, and you will close the doors or go to jail. Take your choice. And it's not like you can argue if you want, but the doors are going to close, right? They'll just call the sheriff. And so, our health authorities, and this is a good thing, not a bad thing. So our health authorities in around the United States have amazing power that they don't often exercise in big ways. They exercise it in small ways every day, closing restaurants and that sort of thing, which is interesting when so many Filipinos want to become an American state. And I'm like, no, if you became an American state, you would be at war. Our friendship would end within about a year and you'd be at war with us. Because first of all, our health inspectors would close down like every restaurant in Philippines. And half the hotels would be closed, like, in the first year. So yeah, and we would be at war, and it just wouldn't work out. But the point is the health that we haven't done more quarantining is not just coming from the presidential or governor level, because we have governors in our various states. Like we have a governor in Florida who is very powerful. The governor in California is very powerful, but they also have the powers to do amazing things, like to make. Is this still live? Let's see. And to do all sorts of. I don't know if we're live at all. Let's see. I think we are, but I'm not sure. It looks like, yeah, we're live. Anyway, so and also at local levels. For instance, a health inspector in Miami could do just shut down public transport. You could say, okay, stop all taxis. You know what I mean? Taxis have to stop. It's that. So there's multiple levels within the United States. I don't know how it is in Germany or Netherlands or Japan or here in Thailand, but there's multiple levels of government that can definitively intervene. Now, at the federal level, of course, it takes the federal government, but at the tactical level, the city level, it can be done at city level if they can withstand the pressure later. Let's see. We in the United States, we literally should shut air travel at this point. This is really massive. Where containment is out of the question. People continue to talk about containment as if that can be done, and so many people are continuing to talk about this as if it's not even a pandemic, including the World Health Organization. Have you ever seen those viruses? You know how your computer can get viruses in many different ways, and one way to get a virus is it comes through your email. Or it could come by phone call. It could come by somebody writing you a note, and that virus ends up in your computer. How does it do that? They say, hey, there's this virus spreading on computers. Go into your, config sys or whatever, and go in and change these different things and blah, 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 blah. And they never sent you anything. Actually, they could just tell you on the phone or tell you in person, hey, in Starbucks, hey, change this on your computer. And then it wipes out your computer. That's another way. There's many ways that viruses get into your computer. And I see World Health Organization and CDC they're like the propaganda arm of the Wuhan virus, of the China plague. I mean, they're like the propaganda arm, like the World Health Organization playing this down like it's not a pandemic. And also many American authorities are like, you don't need masks. It's not a big deal. It is a really big deal. This is not the flu. People that continue to compare this to the flu are simply wrong. And that includes President Trump. Let's see if President Trump becomes a super spreader and goes out there and starts hugging and kissing people on the campaign trail. And he is of that age group that if he's infected, if there is a 80% chance that, that he will be infected, as there may be for all of us, he is in a high bracket. Of course, he'll get top-notch medical care, and that's another a big part of this as well. It looks like Italy, Iran, China, South Korea, and some others already have reached triage state. So in other words, people aren't getting medical care, and that increases the case fatality rate, because more people that get it simply can't get care because the systems are already overwhelmed, and we're just at the front end. We're just starting. In the United States, across the United States, this has been a bad flu year, and so so many people are already there with the flu, the seasonal flu, and now this is sweeping through. And then we just had a big tornado. So imagine, there's parts of hospitals get closed off because of this already, because they become contaminated with the virus, and then they have to quarantine that, or quarantine the doctors and nurses. This is a real war. So real doctors and nurses are going to get killed in the United States, just as they are right now in China. Real doctors and nurses are going to die from this. And we, all of us, probably know some of them. They are our frontline soldiers, as will be our police and our emergency care people, and we have to support them just like we support soldiers in time of war in any way that we can. Um, so let's look at a little more. Nikon has announced a delay of some shippings of some of their new gear. Sony's got problems. Canon's got problems. I've just noticed that because I love photography, and so I'm on a lot of, get emails from different groups. So I just happen to notice that. But then this is also going on in the automotive world and many pharmaceutical world, which is going to affect a huge amount of people. So there's this shutdown of the Chinese economy is rippling across many sectors. The just-in-time inventory issue is really going to be a big deal. Now, up to 8% of the people who become infected, about 80% apparently don't have much problem at all. But of those others who do, about 8%, it depends on what they there's different definitions for different countries, and I don't know what all those definitions are. You'd have to ask doctors, medical professionals in each of your own countries what they mean by intensive care, that sort of thing. But if up to 8% need intensive care of the people affected, I mean, we're just going to be down to triage. In other words, a lot of people are going to be out in tents or whatever, or in the parking lot or at home being treated, or they're just going to be, I'm actually going to be paying close attention to increases in cremations and that sort of thing here in Thailand. And people should be paying attention to, if you know somebody in the funeral industry, or there'll be online statistics, ask them, because there's a lot of people that can be, there's people dying right now, obviously all over the world, just from seasonal flu. And it can easily be, since we're not testing largely, still not doing widespread testing in the United States, they may be being written off as seasonal flu when it's really this. And then some people go, what difference does it make? Well, to that person who's dead and their family, it really makes no difference. But on the larger picture, it is a huge difference that's difficult to overstate. Watch the problems that the markets have had in recent days, and looks like bad days ahead. And this affects everybody. There's people that will not be going to work for whatever reasons. It could be because there's infections. There are businesses quarantined. It could be simply because they don't have inventory because it didn't come from China. It can be so many reasons. And so there's a lot of people that will be. The good news is you'll be able to self-quarantine if you have the discipline to stay home and you have the circumstance, but family clusters clearly are happening. The medical professionals keep warning us about family clusters. So in other words, you can keep all, 10 of your family in the house and one keeps going out and the one comes back in, family cluster. And so, and it's very difficult to let's see. Let's read some questions here, and then let me make sure I've hit on all the major parts. Yeah, this is an election year in the United States, and looks like Biden will be going heads on with Trump. I'm not sure what chance Biden will have in that, but he thinks he's running for Senate apparently, and he mixed up his wife and his sister. Today I think it was. I saw the video. And he's just, he's not obviously not all with it. So, Bloomberg, interestingly, he put from one report that I read, he put about $500 million worth of his own money into the election. And there's some people saying, well, it looks like money can't buy everything. And that's true, but it certainly bought him a lot of votes. He didn't win, but he certainly, in a different world, he might have gotten 500 votes, but he actually got a huge percentage, not compared to Bernie Sanders and Biden. But Biden, it's amazing that people are worried about President Trump starting a nuclear war or something. I'm more concerned that Biden, if he were to win, which is quite possible. I mean, I keep saying there's one thing that can knock out President Trump, and that's this virus. this virus can knock him out, and it can knock him out biologically. I mean, if he's out here running around touching people and this sort of thing, and gets sneezed on, he's meeting with Congress and senators and everybody else in the world. I mean, he can easily, President Trump might already be infected. And if he is, I mean, it doesn't matter all the king's horses and all the king's men. That virus is in you, and you're going to have to fight it. And it's you against that virus. And he's in that age bracket where he literally could be taken out by this virus, especially if he keeps playing like this is not a big deal and he rolls around and is in public the way that he is. Remember, all the people around him too, his Secret Service people, all the people around him. This virus could literally take him out. It could take out Joe Biden too. We could have somebody that's president we haven't even heard of yet. I mean, this is how fundamentally serious this is. I mean, let's see. And yeah, South Korea is already overwhelmed. And let's see. I'm going to start looking at some questions here. And let me see. Should I start at the bottom? Alan says he needs to protect himself. I believe you're probably talking about President Trump or Biden. They all do. I mean, you imagine, according to the scientists, we can contract this virus, and within 24 hours, we're already spreading it at a low level before we even notice it. So imagine, politicians out here doing their thing along with their security people who are traveling around with them and their assistants and all these sorts of things. This cluster of people just traveling all over America like a supercell. You know what I mean? It's really, we really need to close down our schools right now and start. This is a perfect opportunity for the United States and other countries to start getting super serious about education from home. This is that time. I mean, I loved going to school and meeting all the pretty girls, and I made a lot of friends that I never would have made that are friends for life right now. I made them at school. But there were, if we ever had a plague like this, and some of us may not be here now. Hey, Deuce 4, Joe Van. I think of Deuce 4 every single day, man. Y'all were unbelievable. Let's see. Is this stream live? Singing Bird says yes. It is live, Singing Bird. And by the way, for people who are on my Facebook, this is also streaming on my YouTube. It's much higher quality on my YouTube. The video quality is super high, and the audio is actually better on YouTube. So you might want to sign up. Also, Facebook sometimes shuts me off. I say something they don't like, and they never tell you what it is. They'll just be like, you've violated community standards. And you're like, well, what? It could have been something that you published 4 years ago, because they actually block people and kick people off that publish stuff like months and years ago. They do it regularly. You can see people complaining about it online at times. Let's see. Uta Simbach from Deutschland. Italy closed schools and universities. They did. It's a little late, isn't it? But they did. And at least they can try to slow it down now. It is serious, Joyce says it's serious. And yeah, Barbara says YouTube is great. Much higher quality. My streams are much higher quality on YouTube. And make sure if you go to YouTube to click the icon to subscribe, but you have to hit the bell too. But I subscribe to like Pandemic, Steve Bannon's show, War Room Pandemic, and it doesn't send them to me. A lot of people complain about that, not just his, but others. And so you have to, it's a pain actually. Okay. Angela says, that's crazy. Stop it. You're causing panic. I'm not falling for this. Well, have a nice life. Might not be very long. Unfortunately, you can infect others. See, this is where Darwin comes in. Dr. Darwin says, people that he who ride motorbike without helmet and drink whiskey die early. And he who not pay attention to this virus die early after infecting many other people. So if you're going to rent a motorbike on a desert road somewhere and get yourself a bottle of whiskey, by all means, knock yourself out. I'm into freedom. Go as fast as you want to go, through the cacti and all that stuff. Watch out for them coyotes. And, but the problem is with this disease, because I'm totally into freedom. I'm into complete freedom to the point where it makes people uncomfortable. Like if you want a parachute with no parachute, and as long as it's out in the desert, I'm completely fine with it. I'm really into freedom. Just as long as you're not landing in my roof, as long as your disease isn't spreading all over my friends and family and my countrymen and friends around the world, that's where it gets a little bit too much for me. And imagine how this is going to affect prisons around the United States. Already, it's been reported that Iran has released 54 or 56,000 prisoners. I saw that on the news. Brian Anderson saying, "What is your YouTube channel? Also, what's the official channel name for Steve Bannon?" My channel is, if you look, I tried to click your. My channel is, look up Michael Yon, war correspondent, and cannibal hunter. Two things I'm very good at is combat work and chasing cannibals. I'm very good at chasing cannibals. And for those who've seen me in combat, covering years in firefights and bombings and all that stuff, and killing Taliban and them killing us, you should see me when I'm hunting cannibals. I'm much better. You just didn't see it, but I'll publish it at some point. But go to Michael Yon on YouTube, uh, and it's Michael Yon, war correspondent and cannibal hunter. Yeah, Jennifer saying, "He who preps laughs at panic shopping." Exactly. I'm so prepared. I mean, I'm just so prepared in many different ways as well. Psychologically, I'm, again, I'm the one that goes to wars year after year. I'll go to a war, tomorrow. It's like I'm calm. I'm ready to go. I can fast for 10 days. Like other people miss breakfast, I can go 10 days with no food and laugh at it. And I've done it many times. I can just stop eating right now and not eat a bite of food for 10 days. Not, won't miss a beat. You know what I mean? I've gone 20 days without even a bite of food. It's nothing for me. I'm not panicking. I got plenty of fat. I got plenty of food. I got my dog here. She's asleep. Wake up, Barney. And I got plenty of food for her and my wild cats that I adopted. So I mean, I'm good to go. And so one of my friends, he's a missionary in Texas. Actually, he was in China a lot, man. He knows a lot about China. I keep telling you, missionaries know a lot more about a lot of these countries than anybody you'll ever talk with. I learned that when I was a Green Beret. The old time Green Berets are like, I've said this many times, go find the missionaries, talk with them, and make a relationship with them and share information back and forth, because they know more about most places, especially rough places, the kind of places that we would go, than almost anybody, and sometimes more. And so, all the missionaries I know, they're always like, oh yeah, I got plenty of food. And also they'll quickly come together as a group, and they will cooperate as a group. And that group strength is vital. Um, okay. You and Kip Moon is talk. I'm sorry. Someone asked earlier about what was the Steve Bannon's show, and then you and Kip Moon. Thank you, sir. You and Kip Moon, by the way, every time you and Kip Moon publishes something, it's always accurate. I've seen he's published hundreds of comments over long, I don't know, couple of years. I don't even know how long, and they're always accurate, always responsible and accurate. You should be like a co-host, man. And but he says War Room Pandemic is mixed up with other stuff. It is, but you can find it. Like today was episode 32, right? I watched it. Let's see. There is no. Okay. Alan Martineau II says there are no shipping containers coming into the States. The docks are empty. I mean, I'm not going to say that I've audited that and I know it to be true, but I do know that I keep reading all kinds of things that would indicate that that's truthful, or at least approximately true, directionally truthful. Let's see. Toy Stewart Biederman. Hello, Toy. You're awesome. Barry Hendelson, thanks. That's chloroquine, which I've read about in a few other articles as possibly having coronavirus activity. All right, I'm not going to, let's see. All right. A lot of important comments here. Let's see. I would not go to any sports events at all. I mean, if your sons or daughters play in some kind of little league sports or something, it's time to pull them out for now. I mean, that's sad. I mean, it's sad that the Olympics, I haven't seen them canceled, but the chances of the Olympics not being canceled at this point are minuscule. And always leave that little chance, but that would be pretty, or at least significantly delayed, maybe to 1 year out or something. I don't know, but it's hard to imagine. Um, Marie says, not only are me and my boyfriend EMS, but he also works full time in a county jail. See, that's tough for obviously for both of you because you're on the front line, you're frontline soldiers, and also your boyfriend working in the jail. I mean, good grief. And so think about that from that perspective as well. He what 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 are the jailers going to do when this inevitably gets into the prisons and jails? What is it going to do? And by the way, a lot of people have asked me over the years, uh, why do Americans use prisons and jails as if they're two different things? Because they are actually, like in Florida. I don't know what the difference is, say in Georgia or Tennessee or something, but in Florida, jail is, you got like the city jail, that's city level stuff. Like, drunk guy gets caught sleeping in the park and they put him in jail to sleep it off for a night or something. And then you've got like the county jail. Usually that can be a little more serious, or it could be for that as well. But the county jail usually is something that you stay in for a year or less. It's not like a massive sentence of like 5, 10, 20, 30 years. With that, you're going to go to a state prison or a federal prison, depending on the level of the crime. If it's a federal crime, I'm not an attorney or an expert on this, but I know enough that it's just different levels. We got like the city jail, the county jail, and then we got in some states don't have counties, they have parishes or whatever. But then we have state prison system and then federal prison system. And so and then we've got things like Guantanamo Bay, which is a totally different world. And see, Alan is saying numbers in the U.S. are wrong. The people from the cruise ship should not be added in there, just the ones infected in the U.S. Whatever the case on that, I strongly believe the numbers in the United States are wrong for sure. It's hard to imagine that they're not actually. However, very soon here, the numbers from the cruise ship will be such a tiny percentage of the cases that it will just be forgotten. That'll just be like a footnote in history. Right now, people still talk about the cruise ship, but on the scale of things, of the storm that's coming, that's a raindrop. On the scale of the virus, the viral storm that's unfolding right now, typhoon virus, that everything to date is a raindrop. What's happening in Italy is a raindrop, and it's serious. What's happening in Iran is still quite small compared to what's clearly coming. And people that are like, you're panicking. It's like, whatever, man, screenshot your stuff and save it. And I'm not going to waste time on it, but screenshot it and save it and save what I'm saying. Or look up the Jordan Harbinger that interview that I did in January, where I'm way ahead of the curve saying what's going to happen and what's happening now. That was January. We did the interview. He published it sometime in February. Jordan Harbinger, Michael Yon. You can find it online and just search for virus. And every time I mention virus, read those paragraphs and you'll see, because he's got a transcript of our whole like hour and a half interview. And it's just, he's super smart interviewer, by the way. He's up and coming. He's more than up and coming. He gets like very serious people on this program. But look what I'm saying about the virus. And actually, he wanted to talk more about the insurgency in Hong Kong. And then we talked some about the virus. Kim Stewart is saying the death rate is higher than reported with coronavirus because China is not reporting the actual death rates. Okay. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see as this plays out, and it'll be difficult for everybody to hide eventually in countries like, the United States. The numbers can be hidden for a while, but then they'll start to rear their head. But at this time, like CDC and the World Health Organizations, they're part of the virus. I mean, they're literally part of the virus. They're like that hacker that says, change config sys, they call you up and say, hey, there's a virus going around. What you need to do is go in and and then send me this email with this information on it. No, we need your password because we need to come in and fix your system. Boom. I mean, they've human engineered. The virus is actually using CDC and the World Health Organization to spread itself. How brilliant is that? It's an incredibly brilliant virus. Yeah, Danielle saying, De Jesus is saying, naive people be like, I ate dirt as a kid. I'll be fine. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Darlene is right. Darlene Sepp ad. That's right. And right, let's go down and I'll try to take a few more questions. Okay, Gary is saying on the no on my experience with your broadcast, no difference between YouTube and Facebook. Both very good. Thank you. Both of my iPhone X and Chromebook. My YouTube, when I look at it on my computer screen or I look at it on I got a big flat screen TV. I got that. I don't even watch TV much, but I like to look at my high definition videos and photographs that I was shooting in the Hong Kong fighting and that sort of thing. When I look at them on the big screen, I can see errors I made in photography or whatever much bigger. Man, looking at stuff on the big screen can increase your photography skills. By the way, I'm just for photographers out there. I mean, that's why I got the big screen so I can increase my skills. It's like shooting with tracers. Anybody ever shoot with tracers? Shoot a rifle with tracers? When you're not aiming and you're just learn how to do instinctive shooting. Shooting with tracers gives you that instant biofeedback. It's like shooting with tracers. Let's see. I'm Barbara Sumi is saying Pence is having a meeting with cruise ship CEOs and airline CEOs on Saturday. What do you think will happen? Well, I don't know, but we should be ending all. No cruise ships should be leaving from the United States. I mean, or even coming into the United States at this point. Not until this is over. I still see. I was watching Steve Bannon's pandemic show. I've watched all 32 episode, which is kind of funny because they got a cruise ship advertisement on there. I'm like, you think I'm getting on that cruise ship? I mean, I might get on there as a war correspondent or a pandemic correspondent, but I wouldn't get on there for a vacation because I would be masked up the whole time and wearing my Tevek suit or whatever. Okay. Roger Viking is saying, sucks to be in Sweden at the moment. 36 infected and rising. Watch, it's going to hit the roof, man. Uh, Luckily, one thing about Sweden, though, is you guys are serious into prepping. I mean, that's a good side. Always look at the bright side there. And you've got a relatively low population density, but Bernie Mac saying, hey, Mike from near Asheville, can you tell us about Tennessee and Scottish health minister? I must have missed it. Yeah, the Scottish health minister saying that up to 80%. And I think someone from Hong Kong University, an epidemiologist, I think he was, or a virologist, said also that he had similar estimates at one point. I don't remember specifically, but that, her name, the Scottish health minister, her name is Jean Freeman, and she said that up to 80% of the population could become infected, and of those who become infected, about 4% could need intensive care, could require hospitalization. I don't know if she said intensive care. So let me delineate that, which is different in every country. I'm not going to get into that. You need medical specialists to crack that code. But if she's right on those general numbers, 80%, and then 80% get the infection, and then 4% require hospitalization. I mean, quick head math on that would be, 10 or 11 million people in the United States would require hospitalization. If those numbers come to pass and are truthful. Let's see. I'm not going on a cruise. No way I would be going on a cruise right now. That's right. Thomas Tomatis is saying it's Gabriel Loang said that. Same expert who said 80% attack rate. Yeah, and he's highly respected. Gabriel Loang. Leung, is he an infectious disease expert at Hong Kong University? And he's known for his work on other previous pandemics and epidemics. And this is such a complex topic, and it requires many diverse specialties. It requires Oh, so much. I mean, this is like there's so many dimensions to this. There's the infectious disease part, and then there's also economic side, which requires expertise, and that's a whole different world. Requires mathematical expertise that most scientists might not have, because it's a whole. I mean, the math behind this is super complex. It's not. I mean, they're boiling it down when they talk 8% and the 80% attack rate, and the R naught maybe 2 to 6 or whatever. They're boiling all that down. And but the real math for predicting how this could go has I've got just enough math training and study since I was like 8 or 9 years old of every kind of science I can stuff in my bald head, uh, that to know that there's so many variables involved in this that it is as complex as like climate science. It is super complex. There's so many things that go into it. So ultimately, at the end of the day, I mean, and then there's wild cards that nobody can calculate for. They know that they're there, but it's like mutations. Okay, let's say they get everything down pat, which they won't, but let's say that they did. And then there's mutation. It's like, that just changed all the numbers. And the mutations are happening every time it replicates. It's like a copy machine that always has a error in it. So, yeah. Let's see. Davis Chenault is saying you should look into the convolution if virus in humans. Your mention of WHO and the CDC as being vectors essentially mirrors the thoughts of many sociobiologists on the evolution of viruses and how they adapt and select for various traits in their hosts. I wouldn't doubt that at all. It's something I've thought about a lot, actually. This isn't my first thinking on this. I spent so many years rolling around the world and like walking up in the Himalaya at times, just go walk for hundreds of miles and just think about stuff, and spending just so much time out in quiet places, reading books and thinking and watching the world go by, and you realize, all this, any idea that we're kind of separate from the world is obviously just utterly amazingly false. I mean, even the idea that we're an individual human is clearly false. We're part of a much large. We're like light. We can behave as a particle or a wave. It depends on how you look at us. You got which slit we go through or whatever. But interestingly as well, our bodies are like when you look at a tree. A tree is not just a tree. It's also got all kinds of creatures that live on it and in it, and they all work together. You know what I mean? And our bodies are the same way. Our bodies are filled with all sorts of life, just like uncountable. The scientists don't even know. I mean, it changes around the world anyway, different biomes, right? And so, and the different diets that we have, which can be contingent on the what's local or whatever's bacteria we get there locally or the climate. There's so many things that go into it. We are very complex, and we are obviously we like to seem to think of ourselves as discrete little things. Like I'm Michael Yon, but I'm really Michael Yon and part of you, and you're part of me, and we're part of this larger thing, Mother Earth and Mother Nature. Uh, Debbie Borders. Yeah, I mentioned on a podcast maybe a couple of weeks ago that, I think it surprised some people because they sent me some messages offline that, for instance, our connection to our family trees, as an example, like we were all formed from, unless you're not human, but we were formed from egg and sperm, right? And so our mother's egg was formed in our grandmother's body, right? So when our mothers were gestating, when our grandmothers were pregnant, that's when our mother's eggs actually formed. So the eggs that we were made out of came from our grandmother's body. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? Think about that. I mean, we're like, so whatever health issues that she was going through, maybe a super healthy diet or whatever, that we it's like a direct connection right there, obviously. But it's amazing to think of, though, that we actually came from an egg that came from our grandmother's body, like directly, not indirectly. So Let's see here. And yeah, Jack is talking about the aspen tree system as a great group of trees. Interestingly, nature therapy. Dana Dean says, "Oh, there's something about forest therapy. I love just going out in the forest, man. I can just lay down on the ground and just like listen to the birds and go to sleep, you know." And I've done it so much. And but you know, trees actually communicate with each other. They like if one tree starts getting a pest that's eating its leaves, it can it can release an acid. I think it's abscisic acid, right? I don't remember. It's been since I was a kid. And I think I think it's called abscisic acid, right? And it'll cut the leaf off. It'll make the leaf just like fall off. It'll cut its own leaf off, and the caterpillar falls on the ground, and the ants get it or whatever. And but also the trees can release a chemical like maybe pheromone. I'm not sure. And the other trees will sense that and start to build their own defenses. So and this is an interesting aspect of some of these diseases that come from places like in South America or Africa or wherever, you know, one of the things that the scientists believe causes this is that we are the when we attack Mother Earth through farming or whatever, we build our mega cities, and these a lot of these terrible diseases come from places with high biodiversity that we've attacked, that we've wiped out a lot of that the biosphere there. We've wiped out a lot of the things, and for some reason, this causes some wildly dangerous pathogens to be born or to develop, and then they get released upon us, right? And so often these will occur way back in the hinterlands of Africa or someplace, and that's why in the '60s there was a Green Beret, part of the Green Beret outfit, which is what I was in, but I came much later, of course. And that well, we didn't have any of these units to my knowledge when I was at Green Beret, but they were designed to do nothing but go out and to go with like scientists and medical experts to go to remote places and capture samples, whether it's capture animals or whatever, and bring those back to the United States, because a lot of these terrible diseases come in from places where there's actually already wars, like insurgencies. And since that's what Green Berets trained to do, is one of the things is to make and create insurgencies and to counter insurgencies. That's why they would be a natural pick to go out with scientists to go into an insurgency, because the insurgents often live deep in jungles to hide from government forces and whatnot, and they'll be eating monkeys and all kinds of things, and they can get diseases that we don't normally have. Hello, Petra in Belgium. I hear Belgium starting to tick up on this, and also Netherlands, your neighbor, and North Seattle. It's hitting you guys up there already in Washington. David is asking, can coronavirus enter via moisture in the eye? According to the scientists, that is like a front door. Yeah, like touching your eyes. So all these things that we're touching, like money, I believe China may be burning a lot of their money now. I'm not sure what they're going to do with it, but I believe that they're pulling in a lot of their currency because it's such a terrible, some materials, it looks like the virus can stay for days. It depends on many things. Depends on the type of material, depends on the temperature, depends on the moisture, depends on sunlight, depends on other things. And I'm not a scientist, so I can't say. But what we do know from what the scientists know is that some surfaces it can last maybe 9 days. Nobody knows. And so imagine if one of those surfaces happens to be money. Keeping in mind, money is made from different things in different countries. You got the coins, of course, and the paper money. In some countries, it's more of a plastic, and you know excuse me, I needed some water. Let's see. Let's see. I'm stocking up, Renee says, and you should. Everybody should stock up now. Remember what I said earlier. That look at my interview with Jordan Harbinger on his show. Look it up, Google it, and just read the transcript if you don't have time to listen to the whole thing. And you'll see what I'm talking about, this virus. And we did that interview in January. It aired in February, but I'm right on target, and I'm way ahead of the group, like way ahead. I even called this the Chernobyl of like a viral Chernobyl or something of China, which is what Steve Bannon calls it now as well. It is. I mean, it's like their Chernobyl. That's exactly what it is in a viral sense. Ward Smith, my old childhood friend, who World Health Organization latest update is stating 3.4% fatality rate globally. Of course, how do they know even that 0.4%? Nobody knows yet because it's way too early in the game. I do have enough mathematical knowledge to know that nobody knows yet. I know that much. At best, they're just in the ballpark. Let's see. So are we to cremate our dead? Well, a lot of countries do. China does a lot of that. One of the reasons that China does it a lot now is because they don't want, when a billion people die, they take up a lot of land, and also Hindus down in India, a lot of huge on cremation. Up in Tibet, they'll actually chop people up and feed them to the vultures, and so I think though in recent years they may have a problem with not having enough vultures. Certainly, I think the Zoroastrians have had that problem in India, right? They put them on the towers of silence. They're called towers of silence. They'll put the bodies up on the towers, and the vultures come and eat the dead. That might be one way to spread this thing. I don't know. Um, I have no idea, but I think that India has had a problem with vultures in recent years. I'm not sure about that. Um, I heard people last month or so saying, there's a lot of crows and ravens by some of the Chinese rivers, and people were saying, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory that the crows and ravens would eat people, and I'm like, no, it's not. I've seen crows and ravens eat people many times right in front of my eyes, and I've seen it, and I've photographed it actually. It's pretty horrific. Let's see. Katie Smith is saying, oops. Um, Katie Smith, who are the infected deceased? Are they elderly people? Actually, the best thing for that, Katie, is to look online because they're releasing new numbers constantly. So, like if you look at numbers from a week ago, they're a little bit different now. So, but definitely elderly people are more affected. I'm not sure if they're more infected, but like children, not many children seem to be dying. Of course, a mutation could change that, but that doesn't mean children aren't reservoirs who are spreading. So, and like Ewan Kit Moon says, yes, it's possible for the coronavirus to enter the eye. Yeah, yeah. Uh, okay. Let's see here. I think, yeah. Okay. David Jarrett, Mother Nature's way of saying stop overpopulation. You're eating what I never meant you to. Yeah, Mother Nature is in charge, fully in charge. We live at the mercy and pleasure of Mother Nature, and when we mistreat Mother Nature, she becomes upset, and we have been abusing this earth. And one of the things that could exacerbate the fatality rate, some scientists are saying, is air pollution. And if you've been to China, as I've been, gosh, I've been there, I don't know, 8 or 10, 12 times, I don't know, depends on what you call China too. Do you call Tibet China? But in any case, the air pollution like in Beijing is horrific. When you go to Kunming, which they say is like some of the cleanest air in China, and people will say that too. They're like, "We have clean air." They like to say that, and I'm like, "You call this clean air? This is terrible." But for them, it's like some of the cleanest air in China. It's Kunming. I'm like, it's horrific air. It's like, but then you fly to Beijing, you're like, oh yeah, Beijing. I mean, literally when you're landing, it looks like you're going to do a water landing, but you're doing a water landing on the dirty, dingy, ugly, filthy clouds. It's like they rain mud almost. Okay, Alan Martineau said Pence announced 10th. I like Mike Pence, but he's not being truthful on this virus. And I've really liked the way President Trump has handled the a lot of the border issues and dealing with China. Although I'm more of a hawk on China than President Trump is. Uh, and Oh, Barbara Boyer, thanks to Brian Kolfaja for promoting your broadcast. Brian is doing incredible work. And Brian Kolfaja, he's a wounded veteran. Actually, he was hit in an attack in the war, and now he's raised a lot of money to build our southern border defenses uh, down, between United States and Mexico, which is really important. He's raised a lot of money. It's a very difficult project because there's a lot of people getting in his way. There's a lot of political issues that people are trying to do everything that they can to stymie Brian and his team's work, but they're still doing it. Actually, I got some of their coffee here. I'm glad you said that. I haven't tried it. Where did it go? Anyway, maybe it's in the kitchen. Anyway, so I'll show it to you. I'm not going to drink coffee tonight though because they have a coffee company as well, but that's completely separate. Hey, Peter, let's see. Columbia Presbyterian Hospital in New York City told its employees today at special teleconference that the Hunan virus came from bats. The Hunan virus or the Wuhan virus? Okay. Oh, but be careful with that if you're talking about Wuhan. But anyway, because for instance, I think MERS came from bats and then it went to camels, right? And then to humans, I believe. I'm not sure. I'm not an infectious disease expert. So, where does it come from? I don't know. And, is this man-made? I don't know. I'm not going to trade in I'm not going to trade in conspiracy theories, but I also have a vibrant imagination, and I do know from experience that conspiracies do happen every day, or wild stuff does happen every day. And all right. Thank you, everybody, for all the support. Please do hit my Patreon and PayPal and Venmo. And my new Japanese book is out. It came out a few days ago. And there it is. And that's my picture when I'm younger and more handsome in Iraq, actually. But it's about Chinese information war. It's my third book in Japanese language. It's only in Japanese. It's on Amazon.jp, and it's in Japanese language, and it's on ebook, and you can get it in soft cover, and it's written in Japanese, which is pretty cool. And so yeah, you can buy it. Those 2 pages are free. You can read them for free if you can read Japanese. And this is my other 2 books. They're also available on Amazon in Japan. These aren't obviously huge money makers because they're not romances or something big, but they're important to me. They were important to me. That's why I wrote them. And about Chinese information war. So I've written 3 books on Chinese information warfare. So this is something I'm very familiar with. That's why when the insurgency kicked off in Hong Kong, I jumped right on the airplane and landed right in the middle of it, right just like a couple of weeks after it kicked off. And I immediately got it. It shocked a lot of people later. They're like, "You came that early?" It's like, I know insurgency when I see one. And I mean, and I've been studying China for a long time. So I jumped right on. And the same with this virus. You can look at the interview that I made with Jordan Harbinger. I need to pat my own back on that because otherwise it looks like, hey, I'm just raising panic or whatever. It's like, no. Way back in even early January, if you look at my podcast and look at the things that I was saying and publishing, I was starting to focus on this virus. I was like, hey, this is serious. Something's weird going on here. And then certainly by mid to late January, I was like, bing, 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 alert. Even in January, I was talking about how we should close air travel. I was saying that in January. It's on Jordan Harbinger's interview. It's on his website, and it's audio. The whole audio is there, and so it's super high quality audio. And he's got the transcript, so you can listen to it or you can read it, or you can do both. And so I do appreciate that. And as you know, for people who've followed my work for many years, they know when I talk like this, I'm batting 400. I've been 100% correct when I come out and I talk about something this directly. Iraq Civil War, losing the war in Afghanistan, various Taliban issues. Heck, I was warning about Al-Qaeda attacks before they ever attacked, but that was before I was known as a writer, actually. And then, Thai issues or Japan Korea relations splitting apart, and for the reasons that I said they would split apart, which was this, the comfort women issue. See that statue? I was warning about that. I started warning about it in 2014. And so after I was alerted to it and did my own homework, it's an information war that China has used to split uh, Japan Korea relations. And I started warning about it in 2014, and finally last year it came to pass. The relationship really went on rocky water, and because of this. So or the insurgency in Hong Kong. Each time I've come on board, many times, not just those, saying Gerald Menard should be fired. He was fired. He was reduced and ranked to colonel for something I published. And Gerald Menard should be fired. He was fired later. All these different things. And when I said Gerald McChrystal should be fired, I published, and you can find it online, and it was put in Atlantic or something, or maybe the Telegraph. They asked me in some interview, they're like, and who do you think should replace General McChrystal? And I said something like, well, I think General Petraeus should replace him, and General Mattis should replace Petraeus at CENTCOM. But that's not going to happen, is what I said, something like that, because it doesn't make sense. It's not how our rank works. It's not how our system works. But that's exactly what happened. They fired McChrystal, actually did put Petraeus in McChrystal's job, and really did put Mattis in Petraeus's job. I was like, wow. I wish I would have bet that in the stock market. That was like 1,000-to-1 odds, man. I mean, it was like and nailed it, And but it's only because I was paying attention. It wasn't voodoo or anything like that. But it didn't make sense because our system doesn't actually work like that. But the powers that be made the system work like that, and actually that's what happened. But I was saying with high confidence at that time, Gerald McChrystal should be fired. Likewise with this virus, I've been studying it. This is all I've been doing since January. I've been studying this and how it affects China, and how it's going to affect the world and us, and how it affects the insurgency in Hong Kong. And I'm telling you, if you haven't stocked up on food yet, and water and those sorts of things, you better do it. You really better do it. This is really super serious, and it's not a joke. A lot of people are going to die. It's going to change the way you live. If you haven't checked what pharmaceuticals you or your family needs, if they're vital for your life and health, you need to check and see if they or their precursors, their active ingredients, are made in China. You need to check that, because you could be out of key pharmaceuticals soon, and that's going to cause people to die. Other things that will cause people to die is our medical systems are overwhelmed. And my estimation at this time is that in some time in the next couple of months, let's just put a number on it, huge numbers of hospitals throughout the United States will be overwhelmed or on quarantine. And a lot of people will die from other diseases that would have been easily treatable, but they weren't able to get surgery that they needed, or they weren't able to get medicine, or they weren't. But these won't be added. These won't be part of that fatality rate for the China plague, right? They won't be added to that, but they will be definitely directly from that. And so there's so many things going on here. Sorry, I was looking at another screen over here. Okay. Okay. Aaron says, I look better today, not so tired. I slept like 8 hours. Um, and oh, Bernie, you can see the strike and destroy. Really? Oh, I thought it was behind my head. I got that from 5-2 Striker Brigade Combat Team. That's why I used to keep my PVS 14 in. I'm gonna write a book about those guys. I love that. It's an incredible brigade in Afghanistan, and they got maligned by the press like they were committing war crimes or some crap. There was a few guys committed war crimes, but I'm telling you, and then some journalist claimed that I was covering up war crimes for him. I almost sued him, but he's dead now, so it doesn't matter. But I mean, but the point is that was what's his name, Michael Hastings, and he ran into a tree over in Hollywood. I saw the tree. I drove by and stopped. I was like, that's where that guy died. That guy accused me of covering up war crimes. And anyway, whatever. And and then the accusation came in relation to the 5-2 Striker Brigade combat team. There were some people that committed war crimes, but I wasn't there for those. And anyway, long story. But the point is, it was the 5-2 Striker Brigade combat team was a fantastic outfit. And but they got maligned in the press because of various things, like some of the journalists and others did not like Harry Tennell, who was the brigade commander. He was a colonel, great commander. Got shot in Iraq, actually, and he recovered. He got shot really badly, and he recovered, and then he went over to Afghanistan. That's where I got to know him, when he was commander of Striker Brigade 5-2 Striker Brigade combat team. But the problem with Harry Tennell is he's like a real infantryman. He's a real serious officer, infantryman, and he was like, "This is what's going wrong," and he was saying it, the way a good soldier should, but the way it'll get you politically in trouble, and it did. And even the Washington Post jumped on him, and I was defending him. I was like, I went against generals. I went against General McChrystal, who like leaps and bounds outranked Harry Tennell. I went straight up against General McChrystal. So it wasn't like why would I suck up to a colonel? Some people were like, "Why are you sucking up to that colonel?" I'm like, dude, I'll take on a general the way I'll take on, a frog. You know what I mean? It's like I won't hesitate to go heads up with a general, but I'm not going to do it unless there's really serious cause. And it can't be something minor or petty. It has to be really serious, like they're losing the war or something like that, which is what McChrystal and Menard were doing in those two generals in their battle spaces. And I took them both on simultaneously, heads on, and yet I defended Colonel Harry Tennell, who had a lower rank. He was doing fine, but the problem is he's not politically correct. And then some people are like, "Oh, it's because because they only went after Colonel Tennell because he's black." And I'm like, "Nah, that's not it. It's not because he's black. It's because he's outspoken. It's because he's a soldier. He's a real soldier. He's like the real Major Payne, but he was a colonel and not a major. He's really that guy. He's a scientist now, but he's retired from the army. He got shot in Iraq, got really badly wounded, and then a football team. What was that football team up north somewhere? Helped him recover and helped him use the gym. They helped him with the trainers and stuff. I love America. So he's recovering. Harry Tennell's like, "I want to go back to combat." That's why I keep this, man. I like to keep items that came from strong people. And that came from Sergeant Major Rob Prosser. He gave it to me. And he was the Sergeant Major for Harry Tennell, right? So when I see that, it reminds me of people like Harry Tennell and Rob Prosser, and gives me a little strength. That's why I keep it. And here, you can keep it. Screenshot it. Those are warriors, man. And so anyway, I still defend Harry Tennell. If somebody says something bad about him, I stop what I'm doing and rip into him. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good night, and I got some studying to do. And love y'all. Make sure you wash your hands. Wash them good. Look at that video from that English doctor that I put on. I watched some of his shows. He's like an old doctor, and he talks the way all old doctors do. It's funny. He talks about, like, yesterday. Today he's apologizing. He's like, "Yesterday I got a little emotional, and I apologize for that, and it won't happen again." And I watched his show from yesterday, and I'm like, "What emotion? You're like British doctor emotion." His emotions like this, like. And he's like, "Oh, I lost my cool." I'm like, it's like, you won't even notice it. You can watch the whole show. But for him, being a British, English doctor, if they just step out of line just a little bit with emotion, they look like it's a total, chainsaw massacre blow up. Whereas I'm like, "Screw that guy." You know what I mean? Like, in the street, telling a British he's a traitor. That's Americans and British. We're a little different. We come from your stock, but some of us do. I did, but we're different now. All right. Love y'all. Everybody wash up. Shave your head. If you got a pretty head, hair is a reservoir for this stuff. That's why a lot of Chinese medical people are shaving now. And Mike out.